Hey there. It's me, Eden. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to my channel and visit my Patreon page for early access, link in the comment, thanks. David said to me, any guess as to who it might be? I couldn't speak, so I just shook my head. Mystery guest, give us the next clue please. Over the PA system came, I once told you that I enjoyed hanging around with you. My mind raced as I tried to figure out the clue. I hung around with a lot of people from the theater. David said, how about it, Crystal? Any guesses? I still couldn't talk, so I just shook my head. David was grinning as he said, mystery guest, give us the last clue please. You broke my heart when you flew away. I looked at David and squeaked out, Oliver? That's right. Our mystery guest is Oliver Adams. Come on out, Oliver. I was so relieved that I felt faint. I felt tears running down my cheeks. Oliver didn't know my secret. At least I didn't think so. Oliver came out from stage right with a large grin on his face. I got up and jumped into his arms. He kissed me like we had done so many times on the television show. The audience erupted in applause. I guessed that someone had turned on the sign. After we ended the kiss, Oliver went over and shook David's hand while the applause died down. I dabbed at the tears on my face with the napkin that David had given me earlier. When we had sat down, David asked Oliver to explain the clues. Oliver said that he had first met me at the Daniels agency. Since then I have changed from a young teenager to a woman. The second clue came from when we were suspended in the paragliding harnesses in San Diego shooting the opening credits background, and the third clue referred to the accident that caused me to fly away and that broke the heart of Oliver's television character. The rest of my time on the show was uneventful compared to the terror that I had felt for a while, but it was a pleasant experience, and afterward Oliver and I went out to dinner. I didn't eat very much because my stomach was still nervous from the show. It eventually calmed down as Oliver and I spent several delightful hours talking in the restaurant. We finally left when we started to get looks from the staff. The next afternoon, Jennifer and I flew back to LA. Jennifer had arranged for a limo to take each of us home, and it was great being back at the condo even if it was just for a brief stay. I would leave for Mexico in a week to start shooting the new picture. Before I left, I decided that it would be better to have California plates on the car, so I re-registered it using the condo address. It would make us less obvious as we drove around. Carol would have use of the car while I was away. Mom tendered her resignation to the school board and would join me on the trip to Mexico. She said that she was not about to have me living alone in a foreign country, unchaperoned, until I was 21. Her retirement rights were set with the school district, although it would be years before she could collect any benefits. In the meantime, I had plenty of money for the support of the family. With the new movie, I would have more than $3 million in my accounts, plus we owned the condo, and we had separate accounts to cover the education expenses. Unless I did something crazy, like buying a $15 million home in Beverly Hills, there was enough to keep us comfortable for many years. Mom arrived in California on the day before we were to leave for the movie location in Mexico. It had been difficult for her to leave the workplace where she had been employed for so many years, but they had given her a nice going-away party and she left with a lot of wonderful memories. There hadn't been much of a choice in her mind because she wasn't about to let me go live alone in a third-world country for 3 or more months. She told me all about the party that she had been given, and then about the after-hours party with her closest friends. She had a couple of rolls of pictures from the party and we looked at them together. A few tears rolled down her cheeks as she told me about cleaning out her desk. Carol came over to the condo to stay overnight on our last evening. She would take us to the airport in the morning. I gave her a copy of the telephone number and address that I had in Mexico so that she could contact us. We arrived in Acapulco the next afternoon and we were met by a driver for the movie company and taken to a hotel where we would remain overnight. The driver said that we would stay at the movie location during the week and return here each Saturday. On Mondays we would return to the location early in the morning. I was looking forward to an easy 3 to 4 months since I wasn't currently enrolled in school and would have my evenings and weekends free, except for script work. We were ready to leave at 7 o'clock in the morning when the driver came for us. It took an hour in steadily increasing heat to get to the movie location on dirty, dusty roads that left much to be desired. The driver apologized for the lack of AC in the car, explaining, as he dodged potholes that looked large enough to swallow the entire car, that it had broken a few days earlier and that he was trying to get the needed part. The movie location was like a miniature city of tents, trucks, trailers, and motor homes. The site had been carved out of the forest, and portable generator trucks, like the ones seen at carnivals, provided the electricity to run the city. Power cables snake everywhere along the hard, rocky ground. The driver showed Mom and me to my trailer. It was an enormous double-wide unit with all of the amenities. This would be our home for 5 or 6 days a week for the next few months. The AC was on in the trailer and it was a pleasure to cool down and clean up. We had only been there for about 5 minutes when we heard a knock at the door. "Come in," I said loudly. A woman of about 30 entered and said, "Hi, Miss Ramsey. I'm Joanne Baxter." She extended her hand and I smiled as I shook it lightly. "Welcome to the camp. I'm the production assistant on the site." "Hi, Joanne. I'm pleased to meet you. This is my mother, Susan Ramsey." "Hello, Mrs. Ramsey, welcome. Please let me know if you ladies need anything at all. We're a little remote here and we're still getting set up, but we're almost there. The camp telephone system should be activated sometime today, but our contact to the outside world is only by radio or by Mr. Tish's satellite phone. There will be a cast meeting of the principal talent in Mr. Tish's trailer at 10 o'clock, Miss Ramsey. The water in the kitchen of your trailer is safe to drink because it's purified, but don't drink the water in the bathroom. It's safe to wash and bathe in, but it comes directly from the local water district. There will always be cold, bottled water available for drinking when you're outside the trailer. Your refrigerator is also stocked with it, and there are several cases under the sink." "Great. Can I get someone to bring our suitcases over from the car?" "Of course." Shaking her head, she added, "The driver should have taken care of that. I'll see to it right away." "Anything else?" "Not right now." "Oh, where's Mr. Tish's trailer?" "Turn right as you exit. It's the next trailer after yours." "Thanks, Joanne." "You're welcome, Miss Ramsey," she said, smiling. "Just holler if you need anything." After Joanne left, I made a pot of tea. It was too warm for hot tea, so I dumped all of the ice cubes that I found in the refrigerator into the pitcher. I used water from the kitchen sink to make new cubes and hoped that whoever had made the cubes earlier had done the same. A little while later our bags were delivered to the trailer. There were 2 decent-sized bedrooms with queen-sized beds, and Mom and I put our things away in the bedroom that we had each selected. A few minutes before 10 o'clock, I walked over to the director's trailer. Several people were walking in, so I joined them. Mr. Tish was involved in a conversation, but as soon as I entered he waved his hand and walked over to greet me. "Welcome, Crystal. I hope that you had a pleasant trip down. Are you all settled in? All settled, Mr. Tish. Great. Let me introduce you to the others. Over the next 15 minutes Mr. Tish took me around and introduced me to everyone. We spent a minute or two talking to each person. When we were done, Mr. Tish asked everyone to find a seat in the enormous living room that consumed half of the double-wide trailer, and he began the meeting. Welcome everyone. You've all met Crystal now, and most of you have met one another before or during the past 2 days, but let's just go around the room once again and introduce yourselves to reinforce everyone's name with new coworkers. After the introductions were complete, we settled down to discuss the shooting schedule. It would be hot, so we would start very early each day, break for several hours during the hottest hours, and then start again around 2 o'clock. At least that was the general plan. There would probably be times when we would have to shoot straight through, and there would be nights when we would have to work also, because there were numerous night scenes. After the meeting I was asked to go to the wardrobe for fittings. Most of my wardrobe consisted of a rack of tour guide uniforms. I would wear them through half of the movie, possibly changing a number of times each day as they became soiled, so they had plenty of them ready. This was a comedy, and part of the comedy was that I would always look like I had just stepped out of makeup while the tourists in the group grew more tattered each day. The uniform consisted of a very tight, mid-thigh length, burgundy skirt, matching vest, white blouse with a print scarf, and burgundy knee-high boots with 4-inch heels. For the second half of the movie I would mainly wear a peasant blouse and skirt, with flat shoes, but there was also one outfit that consisted of a dark green leather skirt that barely allowed me to walk, a matching leather halter top that had me overflowing out of it, and a pair of double ankle strap, 5-inch heels. There was also a wig with long black hair to be worn with that outfit. I wasn't looking forward to wearing a hot wig in this climate. Fortunately, most of those scenes would be shot towards the end of the movie when I hoped it would be a little cooler. I asked the wardrobe lady why I would have to wear boots in such a hot climate, and she said that it was for my own protection from snakes, tarantulas and spiders, and scorpions. I began to wish that these scenes were being shot on a soundstage in California. During the rest of the week and into the next, we rehearsed the movie's opening scenes and its closing scenes. We would shoot them first, at the hotel where we were staying on Sundays. The remainder of the shooting would take place in areas near the campsite. We spent Tuesday through Friday shooting the scenes at the hotel, remaining at the hotel until those scenes were finished. Right after we wrapped for the day on Friday, I hurried to bathe and dress so that we could leave for the airport. Tomorrow was the premiere of Under the Scarlet Maple in Portland, Maine, and I had been excused from Saturday's schedule to go. We took a plane from Acapulco to New York and then on to Portland. It was very late when we reached the hotel where we had reservations, and I was exhausted despite the fact that I had managed a little sleep on the first plane. I practically fell into the bed once we had been shown to our suite. I spent 4 hours in the hotel beauty salon the next day. The dress that Barbara had made for me in August had been shipped on ahead, and Mom saw to it that it was touched up and wrinkle-free. I was almost ready when my escort for the evening arrived. Mr. Daniels had arranged for another of his clients, Barry Wilcox, to be my escort. Barry, who had been in New York City on business, was appearing in a current sitcom, and the exposure would do him good. By not attending with either of my previous escorts, I avoided having them linked too closely to me by the press, who were always looking for romantic angles. Barry arrived at the suite a few minutes early, just as I was finishing getting ready. I hadn't met Barry before, and we spent a few minutes getting acquainted before leaving. Of course, Mom had to shoot some pictures when the opportunity presented itself, so we posed for her as she shot an entire roll. The limo parked a couple of blocks away from the theater that was hosting the premiere as we waited to be called. Barry and I talked shop the whole time. I learned about his career and told him about mine. We were finally called and the driver took us to the theater and stopped in front. Barry got out first and held his hand out for me to hold onto as I climbed out. As soon as I was halfway out of the limo, the camera flashes began coming at a fantastic rate. I smiled, even as the lights blinded me. It was very cool here in Maine in mid-October, but Barbara had made me a matching cape and I was wearing opera-length gloves with the gown, so I wasn't uncomfortable. An interviewer was stopping all of the arriving guests, just inside the entrance, and I heard him say as we approached, "And now, ladies and gentlemen, I see that Miss Crystal Ramsey, the star of the movie, has arrived. She is escorted by Barry Wilcox of the hit television comedy, Freeway Off-Ramp. Miss Ramsey, would you say a few words to our listeners?" "Of course. Hello everyone. I'm happy to be back in the beautiful state of Maine. I really enjoyed the months that I spent here while the movie was being shot, and I hope that you'll enjoy the movie that's being premiered tonight." "Thank you, Miss Ramsey. I know that I'm looking forward to it. I understand that you're currently working on a new film being shot in Mexico?" "Yes, that's correct. The film is being shot near Acapulco. It's a comedy entitled Water or Tequila, Señorita? I just flew in last night and I have to say that this is a welcome break from the heat of southern Mexico. This is extremely mild compared to some of the weather that we see by this time each year. That's a beautiful dress that you're wearing. What house is it from?" The dress and cape are originals by Barbara DeMilo. Barbara is an extremely talented designer and dressmaker. "I see that. It's absolutely beautiful." For our listeners at home, Miss Ramsey is wearing a lilac beaded dress with a low-cut draped halter neck and a matching cape. Thank you for speaking with our audience tonight, Miss Ramsey. You're welcome. Good night, everyone. Barry and I continued walking, stopping to answer questions from reporters at several points. When we finally made it into the theater proper, I found Gregory, Grace, and most of the principal cast members already there. I spent about 15 minutes greeting and talking to everyone before we were asked to take our seats so that the premiere could begin. Trevor Bacon went up on stage once the audience had been allowed in and was seated. He welcomed everyone to the world premiere of Under the Scarlet Maple and talked for about 10 minutes about the movie and its making. He closed by saying that he hoped that everyone enjoyed the movie and left the stage as the audience applauded and the house lights lowered. A little over 2 hours later, the credits rolled as the audience applauded. I felt that they had enjoyed it based on the mood that I sensed. The theater had been eerily quiet throughout much of the movie and the strong applause rejuvenated my spirit. We again passed through the gauntlet of the press as we left the theater. This time it was congratulations and accolades, more than questions. There were a few questions about what happened next after Mexico and whether Barry and I were dating regularly, but mostly I heard compliments about the movie. Mr. Silver, the producer, had hired a club for the evening and we headed over there. Barry and I were led to the large main table near the dance floor when we arrived. Over the next 20 minutes the club filled with people associated with the movie and their guests, and a small number of prominent people from the area. Everyone felt good about the movie and went about congratulating one another. The real proof would come when the reviews were printed. Barry and I stayed at the party until almost 2 o'clock. As one of the stars, I didn't feel that I should leave until the party was starting to wind down a little, but by 2 I was falling asleep and had to go. Barry didn't know anyone there, so I think that he was glad to leave. I went around and said goodbye to everyone that I knew who was still at the party, and thanked Mr. Silver and Mr. Bacon for giving me the part in their movie. They both thanked me for my performance and we hugged before I left. The limo took Barry and me back to my hotel and we said goodnight outside my door. I thanked him for escorting me and he said that it had been his pleasure, and he congratulated me on my performance in the picture. I let him kiss me goodnight before I went inside. Please subscribe for the next part and visit my Patreon page for early access. Link in the comment. Thanks.